Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to my plant-based kitchen. I did a little teaser on Facebook this afternoon as I started, to make a strawberry rhubarb pie. Sorry, I got a little choked up there. My neighbor Kim dropped off some rhubarb on my front porch this afternoon, and I had strawberries, and I haven't had strawberry rhubarb pie for ages, and it's one of my favorite pies. So what did I do? You know how I am. I'm like an investigator. I went onto the internet and I looked at recipes for plant-based, no oil, strawberry pies. Rhubarb pies. And I found one, and it's from a site called From My Bowl, and it had ingredients that I said, that looks good to me, so we're going to try it today. So I whipped up all the ingredients and put the pie in the oven. I'm going to show you what it looks like, finished. Then I'm going to tell you how easy it was to make it. So follow me over to the oven. It's ready to come out. I put this little plate underneath here because it was overflowing. Take a look at my strawberry rhubarb pie. Isn't that gorgeous? I cannot wait to eat this, and I'll take a piece to my neighbor Kim too. Okay, so how easy was this? Let me tell you. I made my own crust and I made my own filling. This is how simple it is to make the crust. Now I will post these recipes, of course, on the YouTube channel under description, so you must be a subscriber to be able to see it. So if you aren't, go ahead and subscribe. You'll be helping us feed people at the Lincoln Park Community Services Homeless Shelter through my Vegan Volunteer Corps. Once a month, a group of volunteers prepares dinner for 48 residents of this shelter, and we go down and we serve the meal to them. We're going to start doing some classes at the shelter, teaching people how to make really good plant-based food on a budget. So, anyway, what you're going to do with the pie crust, you need 2 of them. And the recipe only makes 1. So I made 1 and then I realized, whoops, I need 2. So you can make a double recipe and then just cut it in half and then have 2 balls so that you can make the top and the bottom of the pie crust. All you're going to need is 1 1/4 cups of a fine almond flour. Now I didn't really use a fine almond flour because this is all I had. It was a little rougher. I'm sure it'll be fine. Then you have to use a 1/3 cup of arrowroot powder or tapioca flour. I used arrowroot powder. And then I took 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed, put it in a small bowl, and added 5 tablespoons of cold water, whisked it up, set it aside to thicken for about 5 minutes. And then I added to the dry ingredients 3/4 teaspoons of salt, and I just whisked up the dry ingredients, and after the flaxseed had sat for 5 minutes, that mixture, I added it into the bowl with the dry ingredients. I used a fork to stir it up, and then I stopped stirring it, and it was time to start to put it together with my hand. So I just put it together into a ball. Now, if it's a little sticky, they say you can add a little bit more almond flour, but I didn't have to. It wasn't sticky at all. So I made it into a nice ball, and then I took out 2 pieces of parchment paper, and I put the ball on 1 piece, and I laid the second piece of parchment paper on top of the ball. And I got this out. Let me find it. My handy rolling pin, and all you do is on top of the parchment paper just start rolling it out until it's a circle. And then what I did is I took my glass pie plate and I removed 1 piece of the parchment paper from the pie crust, took my glass pie plate, inverted it, and flipped the other one over so that the second piece of parchment paper was on top, and I peeled it off and I pressed the pie crust into the pie plate. It was really, really simple. And trust me, I'm not always good at baking these pie crusts, but this was really an easy way to do it. Then I had to stick it into the freezer for 20 minutes so it could harden. Then I took it out, put it into an oven that was at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and I only baked it for 15 minutes, and I took it out and I set it aside. Then I got busy getting the second pie crust together. I did the whole thing again, but this time I didn't bake it or put it in the freezer. I just rolled it out and I waited to use that as my top crust after I made the filling. Okay, we're on to the filling. So all you need for the filling is this. 18 ounces of fresh strawberries that I cut into little pieces, and I probably use more than 18 ounces, and as you can see, it's really like spilling over the top, and I think that's pretty cool. So it's really full of fruit. And then I took all of the rhubarb. Instead of using 2 stalks, I used 6 stalks, but they were skinny stalks. So if you get them at the store and they're thick, it says just to use 2. Cut them into 1/2-inch pieces. Put them into a pot on the stove, and I added 2/3 cup of maple syrup, 1½ tablespoons of arrowroot powder, and do not substitute cornstarch for arrowroot because it has a different way of coming out. So you have to use arrowroot powder. And then I took a teaspoon of vanilla and just a pinch of Himalayan salt, or just regular salt is fine. And you start to mix it together on the stove. It'll come to a boil, and then turn it down and just let it simmer for about 15-20 minutes. That's it. And stir it occasionally so nothing gets stuck on the bottom. And then take it off the stove and cool it for about 15 minutes. Okay, so while it's cooling, go back over to your second pie crust, and you're going to roll out that second ball and get it ready to use as your top crust. And then I only took that filling that had cooled off and thickened a little, put it into the pie plate right here, put it in on top of that baked pie crust, and then I took my second pie crust that was not pre-baked, and I flipped it over and I put it around the top. And you have to poke holes in the pie crust before you bake it, and also on the bottom one. And on this one I poked some holes on the top so it had some room to breathe. That's it. Threw it in the oven for 25 minutes, and look what we have here. Now I'm going to get a fork, or a spoon rather. And it's still pretty hot, but I'm going to taste it. Let's see what it tastes like. This will be my piece later, Dale, because I'm sticking a fork in here. Oh, wow. Let me get a piece of strawberry out. Yep, there it is. Hope I don't burn myself. Let me see. It's pretty hot. Oh my gosh, it's really good though. Let me just blow on it a second. Oh wow. Let me taste the crust. Crust is fantastic. This is like so good. I'm so happy today. I've wanted to have one of these for the last 10 years, and I haven't made one. So there's my strawberry rhubarb pie. So enjoy it. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time back in my plant-based kitchen. Have a wonderful day, everybody. So long.